I ain't following that. That was quite the catch there. Well done. I'm glad you're okay. My name's Brendan. I'm an addict. I too got an email a while back, and the topic was self-acceptance and forgiveness, and I was like, the bastard knows I'm Scottish. and then I get up here, right, and this is the first time I've seen the speaker best practices, and I go down and it says, avoid excessive use of profanity. What am I supposed to do for the other 15 minutes? Self-acceptance. And no, seriously, when I got that, I thought, this guy knows me. Right? Self-acceptance and forgiveness. So I cleaned up in 2001, and I met a fella when I cleaned up called Lester M. from Okanagan. Hi, Lester. He's my sponsor. Thank you very much. And he had 3 years clean. And I'd gone into treatment, and I went into treatment as an alcoholic, and I came out as a drug addict. It's growth, right? My mum didn't think so, but I did, right? Actually, I never swore before I came into recovery, so this is fucking growth. So I met this guy, and I was introduced to Narcotics Anonymous in an H&I setting, in a panel meeting, and I'm an H&I guy till I die. And I was about 33 days clean, and I'd been anesthetized, and it's funny because I'm a Catholic too, but there's only two of my family. You can tell my mum got divorced very early. Sorry, Mum. So I've got, all of a sudden, I've got this wonderful set of morals and conscience that had suddenly stopped being anesthetized. And I started realizing I've done a lot of damage. I've done a lot of damage. I had a story that involved, bless you. I had a story that involved selling drugs, different countries, children that were disappointed in me, lost a great career in the fire department, a family that just didn't understand who I was anymore, and I really didn't know who I was. I had aliases, I was just full of shit. I really was. I mean, it was just all nonsense. And it was really confused nonsense. I don't know about you guys, but, Robin Williams, who was in recovery for a long time, my head's like his. It really is. It is so fast, I can see it coming. It just bounces all over the place, different things. Focusing on one thing at a time is such a difficult thing for me, because I've already figured it out and I'm on to the next thing already. When I was in school as a young kid, I used to get in trouble because I'd be writing out the answer to the math test and already figuring out the next one without looking at it, and I get in trouble for that. So I was really crap at math, because I thought, if I get in trouble at it, I'm not good at it. She was right, I'm not very good at math, right? But it just thinks faster for some reason. That's the way my head works. I'm very, very quick, and that's not great. Sometimes being quick and not having an edit switch is not a good thing. Not a good thing. But what I had to do was I had to get together with, who's Brendan? Like the topic self-acceptance, and I had no idea who myself was. I really didn't. I had no clue who I was. They tell you, look in the mirror and love yourself, and I've got the perfect face for radio, so there's a challenge, right? I'm looking at it going, I love it, I don't love it, I love me, I don't love me, I don't love him either. And I'd have a conversation, and before I knew it, I'd go, well, fuck you too, and I'd walk away, right? Because it just didn't feel good. I could never do that mirror therapy stuff. It was pretty ugly to me. So I started writing out step work, and it didn't feel good. It didn't feel good. I mean, I made some mistakes, as a, you know, I love Christians, Catholics, Muslims. I really don't care. I know nothing. But I chose to do my first step 5 with a Catholic priest because I was a landed immigrant in Canada and I'd been involved in some criminal activities. I'm sure none of you did that, right? So I decided I wanted to have somewhere really safe to talk about my step 5, especially in early recovery, because I hadn't built trust with anybody. So what I did was I sat down with this Catholic priest, right? So in the treatment center I was in, they did the 12 steps, you know, and they had different categories, right? And so there was one on financial, there was one on this, there was one on that, and there was one on sex. And I'm doing this with a Catholic priest, so I'm doing the financial one. He's like, yes, you're a good man. Yes, you're a good man. Yes, you're a good man. Then we talk about criminal activities. He goes, yes, you're a good man. Yes, you're a good man. Yes, you're a good man. And then we get to the sex part, and he goes, yes, yes, yes. And everybody else that did their step 5, like I finished the step 5, I was 2 feet tall. Right, and all he did, and it wasn't that I'd had a lot of sex. Like it's not that good, so don't think about trying. But you know, it's you know, that was you know that was the kind of person I was. If I had all these, if I was doing this wonderful thing, this step 5, and sharing my defects of character and my assets, I couldn't focus on any of the good stuff you were telling me. I mean, the guy spent 2 hours telling me, yes, I was a good man. And because it was on sex, it was only 2 minutes, he said. Yes, yes, yes. That was the only thing I could focus on. For days, I felt like shit. Everybody else gives their step 5, they're on this pink cloud, you know. I don't know if you remember that TV show called Monkey, where this guy's flying around on a cloud. But I wanted that feeling, and I felt totally robbed. Totally robbed, because when I came here I had no self-worth, no self-esteem, nothing. I had nothing. There was nothing left inside, and it's tough. It's tough being a recovering addict. It's tough being a recovering addict at times when you've been around for a long time, right? It is. You know, we all have different things going on, whether it's a divorce, grief, mental illness, any of that kind of stuff. Right? It's not easy. It's not easy, right? So I get to my second set of steps from my sponsor Lester, and I'm about, I don't know, 11, 12 months, somewhere around there I started doing them, and something had changed. Something had changed. I mean, my relationship with Lester had changed, and I started writing down honestly how I was feeling. I started honestly sharing with them who I was. And I started honestly, to the best of my ability, because honesty for me has been a gradual climb up a bloody steep hill, right? Because it took a long time, you know, the onion thing where it gets thicker and thinner and thicker and thicker. It takes a long time, right? But when I sat down and I did my step 5 with Lester, there were some things I didn't want to write down out of fear of being in trouble. And I just didn't want to write them down, so I shared them with him verbally in City Park in Kelowna. And, you know, when I thought about this topic, and I really don't think much before I come up to share here, I read a little bit about it, and then I've been busy this week, I haven't given it much more thought. But for me, that's when the forgiveness started. And the forgiveness started when I was really honest about the things I've been involved in, and all that stuff. But the real big thing was when I shared about how I treated myself. That's where the forgiveness started for me. Inside me, there was things started to change. I wouldn't read it just for the day before I go into a meeting, so I could share on it just for today, right? You know, I wouldn't sit there on my phone and look up the topics, you know, so I could share and sound really cool. I started sharing from my heart. And I knew I was doing that because when I was finished sharing, I couldn't remember what I'd said. Because it wasn't part of the plan, right? you know. And when that kind of forgiveness, like when forgiveness like that started coming in for me, I was starting to get through who Brendan was and who I am, right? You know, I've been clean for 15 years. I've done a number of sets of steps. I've done a number of sets of steps with other men in recovery, my sponsees. And I have this one sponsee called Bruce. And it's like, this guy is like Mr. Logical. He's a power engineer. He's incredible. And very, very intelligent. But feelings to him are not logical. It's like doing step work with Spock. You know, and I thought, like, I remember thinking after the first step one, I'm like, there's another 11 to go. I wonder how many years I'll have by then. Sorry, Bruce. I know you get it, and you're probably listening to this at some point. I'll send it to you and be far away. But you know, Bruce has become a great friend of mine, and I love him dearly, and still my sponsee. But in sitting down with somebody who's not like me, right? Like, 'cause I'm a feeling guy. Like, I really am a feeling guy. I feel angry. I feel cranky. I feel happy. I feel sad. I feel mad. I feel glad. And that's while I've been touching my fingers, right? You know, Bruce was like, you know. But in talking to Bruce and trying to explain and trying to get this out, he was teaching me. He was teaching me to find that feeling. He was teaching me to find what I needed to describe myself. Right? And I think he knows now the gift he gave me, because in order to sit down and do step work with somebody who is so different from you, you really have to think about it. You have to be present. You have to be in the moment. You can't lie about it. You know, I couldn't anyway. And it was an amazing thing. How long have I got left? 8 minutes. I'll just swear from now on and we'll be filled in, right? There's some self-acceptance for you. But Bruce taught me this, and about a year and a half ago I got another sponsee in my life. And I've known this guy for a long time. And his name's Tom. Thanks, Tom. And Tom lost his son about 17 or 18 months ago. He was 13 years old. Tragedy, an absolute tragedy. And I got to watch Tom reach out to me. And we're very different people. We're really different people. He has a very different life from me, right? He was an investment banker. He was a very successful guy. And I've watched him over the last 18 months grow. And through an absolutely awful thing, I've watched him forgive himself. Like I've watched, you know, because it wasn't his fault, it had nothing to do with him, but the way his head was thinking at such a terrible time in his life, like I've watched it. It's been an absolutely amazing journey so far to watch somebody go through that level of grief, and to watch the blame. I could have done this, I could have done that, I could have done this, right? To get to that place, right? And what that taught me was, I've got a son too, right? And my biggest fear has always been losing my son, right? I didn't see my first son, Carl, for 15 years. And I've always had faith, because my sponsor got his kids back in his life or his daughter back in his life after 30 years, that one day Carl would come back. And he did. About 3 years ago, my son came back into my life, and I'm very, very grateful for that. This is one of the most beautiful days of my recovery was that day. So anyway, my friend Tom got me thinking about forgiveness and being a dad, because I'm a dad who's settled. I think today I might be divorced. It was about 31 days ago I was in court, and the judge said in 31 days we're going to be divorced. So I'm grateful for that too. She won't be listening to this, that's okay. Sorry, that's not very nice. But I grew up without my dad in my life. So I knew what it was like for my son not to have me in his life. But also not having a dad in my life has left me with this question. I've never done this before, right? What am I going to do? How am I going to get through this, right? Am I doing the right thing or the wrong thing? Because when I was a year and a half clean, my son Connor came along, and at 5 weeks clean, he was apprehended from his mum, who I'd had a long-term relationship for 3 months with. In early recovery, I did that. I was 9 months clean. She was 3 or 4 months clean, and I didn't follow the suggestions, and I have a son because of it. He's great. He's great, but he now has to grow up without his mum because unfortunately she hasn't cleaned up yet, right? But at 5 weeks old, I was handed a baby. Here you go. Actually, not true. I had to go get him from the ministry, and then they didn't like me either, and I had to fight for him. But I got to keep him, and he's still with me. And so now I've got a baby, and I don't know what I'm doing right or what I'm doing wrong. I was in my first son's life for a year and a half, and so I didn't have any experience of being a dad to a 3-year-old or a 5-year-old or a 7-year-old or a 9-year-old. I didn't know what to do. And I know at times I've made some really bad mistakes, whether it's being angry and shouting at him and scaring him, not being spiritually connected at the time when you're reprimanding your children, or just practicing self-will and forgetting that he might like to spend the day with me, right? Getting caught up in doing too much service work, or I'm in a new relationship and I'm off over here doing this, right? Just forgetting sometimes that I'm a dad, right? So about a week and a half ago, my son, who's going to be 14 next week, I get a call at 1 o'clock in the morning, and it's him, and he's in tears. And he's not where he told me he would be. He's in the skateboard park, and the police would like me to come and pick him up because he's been smoking pot and drinking. And I'm like, sorry, what? He's never seen me use, and he's been around the rooms forever, and he's bawling. And I'm like, okay, tell the policeman I'll be there in 45 minutes. And he says, you've got 5 minutes to come and get me, Dad. And I'm like 45 minutes away. I'm in another city. So I'm like, okay. So I get a bed, and I phone a friend of mine in the room, Ken, and arrange for him to go pick him up. And it's 1 o'clock in the morning, and my friend, who's in the fellowship, at 1 o'clock in the morning. Now, if he hadn't been clean, he probably wouldn't have answered his phone, right? Went down and picked him up and saved him from getting his night getting a lot worse, right? And then, so I had 45 minutes to drive there. And I prayed. I prayed to be a good dad. I prayed to know what to say to him when I got there. I didn't actually have to say anything when I got there, because all I did was cry and want to be hugged. Because my son felt so bad that he'd let everybody he knew, because most of them were in the fellowship, down. Right? He'd lied to me. He had the conscience I didn't have when I was using. He had the morals I'd forgotten when I was using. Right? And he didn't want to be like me growing up. And that, for me, was huge. I remember when I used and for the first time, and I got really messed up. I was about his age. And I remember my mum telling me off, and I can still hear it. It went on for weeks. Right? How could you? Not in this neighborhood. And it wasn't because I didn't have a great mum, because I have the best mum in the world. She's not yours. Okay? I have the best mum in the world. Right? Because she has been the rock that Narcotics Anonymous has been. Right? She was the only one that would take a phone call from me before I cleaned up. Right? But my son, I drove him home. I didn't raise my voice. I was able to be completely present in the moment and let him feel his feelings from a place of love, right? And we haven't argued about it, we haven't shouted about it. I've checked in with him daily this week to see where he's at, and I feel like one of the best dads in the world, right? Because I learned how to forgive myself. Because there's no rule books about being a dad, but what I've learned in Narcotics Anonymous, I can apply to being a dad. I can apply spiritual principles to being a bad dad. Oops. Sorry. Could you just edit that bit out, please? Yeah. I can apply. I can pray. I've got a higher power now. I've got a higher power that works for me, right? That's always with me when I access it. And you know what the really funny thing is? This wonderful son of mine got in a fight at school today. His first fight ever. And I'm not mad with him. I said, "Did you hit him back?" He said, "No." I'm like, "Good, he's not suspended." But the old me's like, "Well, we're going to have to get him together, and he's going to have to be a man." Like, you see how my head works? I got to forgive myself for thinking on a daily basis, because sometimes I think really badly, But the other thing is about forgiveness is, the amount of people that have forgiven me since I came into Narcotics Anonymous. I have my children back in my life. My oldest son, he's been back in my life for 3 years, gave my grandson my middle name. All right. Who'd have thought? Like that's not in the promise we get when we get here. If you do what we do, you'll never have to use dope again. I'm proof of that, because I've never relapsed since I came to Narcotics Anonymous. Right? That's my story. It might be very different from yours, but my story is every time I've wanted to use, I called my sponsor. If I couldn't get a hold of him, I went down that list. If I couldn't get a hold of anybody, and I couldn't get a hold of my higher power, the defect of ego kept my clean time. And seriously, that's something I discovered in step 5 was my ego is an asset as well as a defect, because when I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing, I don't want to lose my clean time. I just don't want to, right? And I'd never thought ego was an asset, right? So I'm at this place now, where my son obviously provoked something to get smashed in the face by his friend, but he reacted well. So I'm proud of that. I ain't following that. That was quite the catch there. Well done. I'm glad you're okay. My name's Brendan. I'm an addict. I too got an email a while back, and the topic was self-acceptance and forgiveness, and I was like, the bastard knows I'm Scottish. And then I get up here, right, and this is the first time I've seen the speaker best practices, and I go down and it says, avoid excessive use of profanity. What am I supposed to do for the other 15 minutes? Self-acceptance. And no, seriously, when I got that, I thought, this guy knows me. Right? Self-acceptance and forgiveness. So I cleaned up in 2001, and I met a fella when I cleaned up called Lester M. from Okanagan. Hi, Lester. He's my sponsor. Thank you very much. And he had 3 years clean. And I'd gone into treatment, and I went into treatment as an alcoholic, and I came out as a drug addict. It's growth, right? My mum didn't think so, but I did, right? Actually, I never swore before I came into recovery, so this is fucking growth. So I met this guy, And I was introduced to Narcotics Anonymous in an H&I setting, in a panel meeting, and I'm an H&I guy till I die. And I was about 33 days clean. And I'd been anaesthetized, and it's funny because I'm a Catholic too, but there's only two of my family. You can tell my mum got divorced very early. Sorry, Mum. So I've got, all of a sudden, I've got this wonderful set of morals and conscience that had suddenly stopped being anaesthetized. And I started realizing I've done a lot of damage. I've done a lot of damage. I had a story that involved, bless you.